another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And I'm Ted Bannock. I love talking about cards.
You guys are cracking me up. What are we talking about today, Grant?
Well, we're talking about one of the heroes from the Shadow in the East, Frodo Baggins, the leadership hero. He's a 7th threat, 2 willpower, 1 attack point, 2 defense point, 2 hit point, hobbit hero. With the response, after Frodo Baggins commits to the quest, spend 1 resource from his resource pool, or ready another unique character committed to the quest. If you quest successfully this phase, reduce your threat by 1.
Whew. This is let me just say, and then I'll turn it over to you guys, but I'm excited for another leadership Hobbit hero. I think It's been a long time coming. So, Ted, what is your hot take on this new hero that we haven't seen yet?
Yeah, in the spoiler article, he's great. The designer has sort of kept in theme with we're not going to change hero stat lines, so we see the same stat line as his Frodo or his spirit version of Frodo. And he's got a real interesting response. It seems to be pretty common. A lot of leadership heroes that we're seeing, they seem to have some sort of cost with their ability where you have to pay a resource. And that probably has to do something with the leadership meta of accelerating resources and Sword of Gondor.
Right. So I think Aragorn is one that I know right off the top of my head, but are there others that do that sort of thing?
Oh, I recall, when leadership Éomer came out, you have to pay a resource for his ability.
Right.
Was the big one I noted.
Right.
And he's Hobbit traded, and it's interesting. You also get threat reduction in a sphere that you don't usually get threat reduction in of leadership.
Right. How many? I think that this may be the only leadership threat reduction card. This is where Grant comes into play, where he's got his Hall of the Horn up. But I think that's true.
That could be. And his ability is a little bit restricting. You have to pay a resource to ready another unique character. I kind of compare him to but the hero Faramir, the leadership version, where his ability is to, when you engage an enemy, you get to ready an ally. So with Frodo, you're paying a resource to ready another character that you committed to the quest, and you have to sort of be careful and pick a good target for this, right? That's the thing that's most kind of restricting, but it opens up a lot of opportunities.
Yes, Baggins is the leadership threat control we have.
And we don't even see him for another 2 months. I predict this is out beginning of August. I think is going to be the release date, at least in the U.S. They're on a pretty 2-month cycle, I think.
Yeah, my speculation is this will drop. At Gen Con in August, they early release content, and my hopes are they'll have this for early release in August at Gen Con, and then it'll come out later in the month.
Yeah. Well, Grant, what do you think of this guy?
I like it.
He's brilliant, right? You always say brilliant about cards that you like.
It's going to be interesting to see. I like the fact that you got a bit of action advantage, and it's not limited to ready another hero. It's just ready another unique character. Just to make that definition clear. What I also like is the second part of his ability is not dependent upon his resource or spending of that 1 resource. It's just stated, if you quest successfully this phase, reduce your threat by 1. So as long as you're questing successfully, you can reduce your threat gain.
Right. I'm excited for leadership Frodo, leadership Sam.
That's it. That's the deck.
Stop there.
Yep.
And Gollum. How's that?
The spoiled Smeagol hero that will also be out in the same deluxe AP.
Yeah, and then with the contract that we talked about, I mean, this could be an interesting. The problem is that you don't have access to those other. How many lore and leadership hobbits are there? There's not a ton, so I don't know. I mean, you could do other things with it, but I think that thematic wise, that's what I'm most excited for. Is the two new heroes plus leadership, Sam.
Yeah, this Frodo too. It's interesting that his ability is almost the opposite of his spirit version, because his spirit version will raise your threat, and in this one, it's reducing your threat.
Right. So if you play Frodo Baggins and Frodo Caggins together, you can have them working side by side, and like the twins are going at each other.
Just for people's information, there are only 2 unique Hobbit leadership allies so far.
Wait, so let's say 2 unique leadership Hobbit allies?
Yes.
Rosie Cotton.
Yep.
And the other one that's spoiled in the same article?
Is it
Nope.
Pippin? Pippin
Nope.
is the other in the article, but he will be one. But the only other one I can think of is Keen-Eyed Took, but he's not unique.
You're forgetting of Halfast Gamgee from the Crossings of Porthos.
Oh, how
fast?
He still even exists?
He sure does.
Yeah.
Grant. You're killing me, Smalls.
Yes, Keen-Eyed Took is a non-unique Hobbit ally.
Right. But he's leadership, right?
Yes, he is leadership.
Where's Brandon from the first age of Cardboard of the Rings when you wanted to talk about Ket, right? That's
Yeah. Right.
As for law, we only have on Hall of Bjorn 2 law ally.
the sheriff, the Robin Smallborough, and the again, that's a shout out to Sean from the first age.
Yeah,
and then let's see, the other lore. Did you say unique or not unique?
Unique.
Unique lore ally Hobbit. Right? Is that what you're asking me here?
Yeah, there's one other unique law Hobbit ally.
I can't.
I'm going through on my head and all of the ones that's not anybody that I played with. That's for sure. Or
Really?
is it?
You haven't played with him?
Not that I could think of. Who is it?
You
I remember now.
Who
It's
is
very, very new card.
Yes, it is a very new
Very,
card.
very new card.
It's a card with
Sam's.
Oh, Sam. Oh, yeah. Sam's dad, Gaffer Gamgee. I would play
Gaffer.
him in a heartbeat. Okay, yeah.
We've already spoiled this card, David. I can't believe
Right.
you forgot.
I forgot. I totally forgot him.
So
Sorry.
far, law and leadership, we have a total of 4, possibly 5 Hobbit unique
Right.
characters. So you couple that with the contract that you've got that's just been spoiled. There you go. You've fulfilled the fellowship.
Right. I don't know. But
But
there's got to. I mean, this guy has got to fit into other decks, right? Like he's not just. I feel first of all, he's the lowest threat leadership hero.
Yeah.
Today. Every other leadership hero is 8 or above. So let's
He
maybe
really
talk about that.
lends himself to secrecy. And even though he doesn't directly synergize with Sam Gamgee, because Sam's ability is to ready himself when you engage an enemy, he does reduce your threat, which is very synergistic with secrecy. So it'll kind of depend if you're going to run in that particular deck, if you're going to run 3 heroes, what your third hero is going to be.
Well,
But
if you
there's a
wanna
lot
run
of
2 heroes. You just use Falco, right?
yeah.
And then just sacrifice them at the very
You could pitch
beginning,
him,
right?
Yeah, you can just throw him away. But you could actually have Falco around because he's got 2 willpower and 2 attack. So you quest with Falco. You could ready him early in the game if you need an extra 2 attack.
Right. Now, is this version of Frodo, like, do you have to run Steward for this? Like, one of the knocks on Korrigorn is that, in order to get reasonable ability out of him, you have to use him with Steward of Gondor or some sort of reliable resource acceleration. I mean, is this the same?
Yeah,
I would assume this is the same thing.
You need either Steward of Gondor, or if you go the secrecy route, you have Resourceful, at least the
which
the neutral attachment to generate a resource.
Right.
So if you paid 1 for Resourceful, that would let you trigger his ability every single turn.
Right.
But without any of that, that's kind of what I was getting to earlier, is that if you don't have access to Steward, or you're putting him in a non-secrecy deck, paying that 1 resource a turn is going to be a struggle. Just to ready, and you have to ready the character at the time of questing. It's a response.
Yeah.
So you could ready a character that you never use for combat.
Right. Well, and how does this synergize with Smeagol? Because Smeagol, when you explore a location, right? Aren't you able to draw a card? So right? Isn't that am I getting that right? Like, isn't there some synergy here with this version of Frodo and Smeagol that?
Well, Smeagol raises your threat when you travel to a location, I believe, or something along those lines.
Oh, you can raise your threat. You raise your
draw
threat,
a card,
but then you can draw the card. But then Frodo then just reduces your threat back down, right? Like,
right. And
is
again,
that a
Smeagol's
thing?
Yeah, and he's got a decent stat line too. He's got 2 willpower, 2 attack, and 2 defense.
Yeah,
so
2, 2, 2, 3. He's not going anywhere.
if you use him to quest and then attack later in the round, not too bad.
He could be a chump defender,
Using him in conjunction with Bearvor, the lore hero that has an action that you draw 2 cards from the core set, that could be very useful early game.
Right.
Because you could still quest if you need the willpower early game, and then pay 1 resource to draw 2 cards by readying her and then using her action. That's pretty good. I'd pay 1 resource to draw 2 cards.
You could also put
Yeah.
the new Frodo with Theodred.
Because right. I mean, well, that's the old that's like smacks of core. Building the core. Now, how awesome is this? That this is, the Vengeance of Mordor. What's the Shadows of the East is the cycle, and then there's the Shadows of Mirkwood, and so now you get these synergies that are kind of coming back with, you can do Theodred and give him the resource and to give to Frodo to be able to do the things that were popular in the core set. Now you have I think that these are kind of intentional things that are coming out that it just shows how much care I think that Caleb has for the caretaking of the game, if you know what I mean by that. I just think that these parallels are not accidental.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that could be done with Leadership Frodo, and it'll be interesting to see which route people take him, because obviously he's got an okay stat line. He's got 2.
Well, what's his stat line? 2-1-2-2?
2-1-2-2.
Right, so he's not going to be your defender.
No, he's not like Spirit Frodo where he's going to tank a lot of your hits.
Right, he's going to be your primary quester, I guess, right? Like, that's going to be what he's doing. And then Sam is going to be your everything guy. Or if you're pairing the two. I keep wanting to my Hobbit.
Hobbits are drawn together.
Yeah.
If you're running Spirit Sam, then I could see...
Yeah.
I could see that working.
Yeah, that's...
Leadership Frodo, Bill, and Spirit Sam.
Also pair very well together. That's a great combo.
Because Spirit Sam's got a decent ability, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's you can raise your threat to boost his stats or something along those lines. So if you can keep triggering that where the hero is going to be lowering your threat. So really a lot of space. I think the biggest question then becomes, does he overtake or give competition to his other version? And the thing that scares me is he's only got 2 hit points, and the spirit version of him, he didn't really care because his ability was to negate damage. So in this, you have a very fragile Hobbit character. And you have some ways to increase his hit points. You have Boots of Erebor, you have Build a Pony, and you also have
Mithril shirt.
Mithril shirt for very thematic play to reduce damage he takes. And you have Ent Draft as well to increase hit points. So he's fragile, but that comes with Hobbit territory.
Yeah, the Hobbits are definitely amongst. I wouldn't say they're the most fragile, but they're definitely amongst the most. Sylvans are also very fragile.
What? Sylvan's fragile? I was trying to find a comment that was made in the Facebook group. Caleb actually. I was a little shocked that this happened, but Caleb had said, I think, that he said that when he play tested this cycle, he was using Frodo for most of the cycle. Frodo, and I was looking for exactly what he was using, but Frodo with the contract, like, that's what he was using to play test the cycle. Now I know that he's got, limitations on he can't play test everything with every card and all those things, but I thought that was a unique maybe commentary, and Caleb doesn't usually, I'm not sure how much he's allowed to share on. Obviously, he's allowed to share this, or else he wouldn't have. But usually he lets the players figure all this stuff out, and for him to share that, I think is a powerful indication that he really likes Frodo and what can happen with him.
Yeah, I think he's a definite competitor for a spirit version. It's nice to see him, in the leadership sphere. And the leadership heroes, they generally seem to do one of two things. They either give you extra resources or they take extra resources.
They give or taketh away, right?
Right? They have something. So many resources heroes generate resources. But then there's still a handful of them that make you pay resources. Like Eladin also comes to mind too. Is it Eladin or Elro here? Whatever the leadership version is.
Right.
That's you spend resources,
because he uses resources and then he readies and then he gets a whole bunch of
Eladin?
Yeah, Eladin.
Yep, Eladin. So he comes at a cost, but again, whether you have Steward or Secrecy, he's fine. If you have neither of those, not super playable, but he's Frodo, right? So you have a lot of thematic play there too.
I still think that the fact that he has the lowest starting threat of any of the leadership heroes, I think that that's nothing to sneeze at. And you also don't necessarily have to use that first ability, right? You only have, lowering your threat for, like Grant said right at the get-go, lowering your threat by 1 for every time you quest successfully. Like that's good enough. That's good enough to use. So,
so for example, if you are running Frodo, Galadriel, and Sam, for example. You then have Rosie Cotton out, first turn. You get the boost from Galadriel, drop you with Nenya. Frodo's then questing. You could then potentially ready Rosie, and you've got her up for a second time. You could do so many shenanigans.
The reason why I like the three that I said, the Sam, Frodo, Smeagol, is because of Fast Hitch. And I said this on the Fast Hitch show, Grant, is that I'm so in love with Fast Hitch for what it does for hobbits that I'm always drawn to making sure that I try to have lore in my deck. But that may be a handicap of mine.
I'm just going to throw back to Frodo's episode. Sam, watch out for Rosie.
Yeah, right. Sam really does have to watch out for Rosie. Fast hitch on Rosie. Yeah.
Or multiple fast hitches.
Right. If at first it doesn't succeed, try again. So I'm the only one here that's married. So I'm not trying to put that out here, but I've already my hitching is done. So.
That's what he says.
Right. So I don't know. Should we wrap this up here, guys? Like, this is one of those cards that I feel like we can make a lot of conjecture, but
because this came out of a spoiler article, none of us have had any play experience with him.
That doesn't prevent us from making all sorts of opinions here.
No, not at all.
It
never does.
I've actually never played the game. I'm just in it for the money.
Yeah, I love talking about cards, but I don't love playing the cards.
Right. Right. And Grant, he's just along for the ride. So
yeah,
I'm always just along for the ride.
Right. I was going somewhere with that, but
yeah, we can give him a ring and
try to ring him.
Yeah, we'll try to ring him. He might get a re-ring. Again, you don't really know the power of a card until you put him on the table. Because I think you're right, David. It's pretty easy to underestimate his second ability. Right. The fact that he just quests and reduces your threat every single turn, and then he's a low threat hero to begin with.
Right.
Which is something I know you're a fan of. It can put you under that threshold of engaging enemies when you don't want to be, just because you quested successfully for a few turns.
Right. I really like this.
Okay.
I really like the card, but
I like his art too.
He's sitting astride Bill, I believe.
Yeah, he's on a horse looking thing, and I thought it was a horse.
A horse
at first, but then I realized it was probably Bill.
I think this is just after he's been stabbed by the Morgul blade, so he's
he's too coherent. He's to be riding Bill.
Well,
I guess in the story he rode on the horse. He rode on Bill for a while before he was taken away by Glorfindel.
Yeah, he looks.
How come they took Arwen out of the book?
Arwen was in that part of the book.
I know.
They took
and they took Haldir out of the fight.
Yep,
for
exactly.
Helm's Deep.
Yep.
Oh, jeez, I can't believe how.
Yeah, the book messed up so many things, didn't it?
I know. There's Beorn is rolling. Electron John, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. It was just a joke. I truly honor the lore of the game, but sometimes the jokes have to come.
Yeah, so I think that's when this art is designed, when he's just after Weathertop, so when they're going through the top of the Etten Moors, well, the bottom end of the Etten Moors, just before they travel down into the Troll Valley.
Right.
That's where I would have thought this art would have been from.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's give him a ring.
Yeah, let's ring this guy. So, and we do. Let me just put out the disclaimer: we do reserve a right to come back to this card after we've played it for whatever reason we want. Plus, knowing us, we probably, or at least me, we probably got some rule interpretation wrong that we'll probably have to make amends for. It seems like that's the thing that happens on our spoiler shows. But for anybody who's new to Card Talk or forgets, we have a highly scientific yet arbitrary system where we rate our cards on a scale from 1 ring to 10 rings, where 1 ring is the one card to rule them all, and 10 rings is... I really should probably come up with, like, the term that 10 rings is. Like 10 rings is the worst card in the game, but it's binder fodder or trash or bike spoke. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But let's go around the table. So who wants to go first?
I'll let Ted go first.
Let the new guy go first. Okay, Ted, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks. Leadership Frodo Baggins here on a scale of 1 to 10. He's not certainly his ability's got a little bit of restriction to it, having that resource cost, but it's an optional thing, and he does have a static ability, to quest successfully and or to reduce your threat from questing successfully. So that is a pretty powerful effect. So I'm going to give him a 6.
6.
It's probably where I'm going to put him because it's. He has a unique space to him, being, as we discussed, threat reduction inside leadership. Right. So he can pair naturally, or now if you wanted access to leadership, but you, for some reason, don't want to run Sam Gamgee, and you want a low-cost leadership hero, and he's an option now. So he's got a lot of space there, but he's still fragile and has a few other weaknesses.
Right.
Okay, David, what about yourself?
Oh, so you're going to toss it to me now? So, okay. So I've been excited for this leadership version of Frodo for a while now. I think a French article spoiled it, and we kind of all guessed in the community to do it. But now that we see it, we can really hunker in and figure out what is good. I think that because it's the lowest threat hero in leadership, it gives it its own kind of unique feel to it, and it continues to lower threat. And I think that, like Ted said, that is not an ability to be taken lightly. I think that before, I think that this gives you an option for splash in leadership. I think that if you wanted resources and you wanted to play like that aggro style, you're definitely playing leadership. You're playing leadership Denethor. If you kind of are doing low threat, you're playing leadership Sam maybe as a splash. But this gives another option. So I'm not sure that it necessarily is the be all and end all to the Hobbit problem. Whatever the problem is, that's squishy and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that it's that. So I don't think that it necessarily solves that problem. But I think that it solves a problem in that it makes a leadership, a more heavy leadership viable Hobbit deck a reality. You're not just reliant on the one leadership Hobbit hero, Sam Gamgee, that we've been dealing with. Mm-hmm. So. Because of that, and because of my excitement for low threat heroes, plus my excitement for Hobbit heroes, I'm gonna do something a little unprecedented. And I'm gonna give this guy a 4. Normally, if I haven't played the card, I normally just give it a 5 because I haven't really played it. But I'm gonna give this guy a 4 because I want to really see how he works, and I'm really excited to play him. So I'm gonna give him 4 rings. So Grant, what do you have to say about this guy?
Well, I'm generally on the opinion that this is going to be a good hero. It gives access to action advantage within leadership, which we haven't seen much of since Aragorn from the core set. There are a few cards, but for heroes, there's only really been Aragorn. It also gives you the ability to reduce your threat, which is the only card that does it in leadership. His stat line is ideal for questing. Not great, but not bad. Couple that with some of the new cards that we've got coming out, and yeah, I think he's going to be an all-round good card. No matter which way you put him in a deck, whether it's just a splash of leadership or if you go mono leadership, I think he could work out quite well.
I think one card that we ignored here, and I don't mean interrupt your regularly scheduled ring rating, just to say that I think that one card that goes along with Hobbits in general that this also gives access to is the One Ring. We haven't talked about the One Ring on the show, but I think that the One Ring also lends itself to this Frodo character being in the game. Because you lower your elimination level by 5. So, more on that later, but I wanted you hit a thing there that I wanted to make sure that was something that I said, Grant. You reminded me of that, so thank you for that. Sorry. So back to your regularly scheduled ring rating.
Yeah, so as I was saying before David jumped in with the One Ring card analysis, I think could work very well even if it was a splash or actually put into a mono leadership deck. So I'm going to give them 4 ratings, 4 rings, because I can't see much of a downside from running them. So yeah, 4 rings.
Okay. Well, everybody, let's do this again sometime, and we'll talk about more cards from the game. Have a great day. And if you're interested in finding this or any of our back episodes of Card Talk, feel free to search YouTube, where you can find our flagship video episodes with the username Card Talk 2018. Or you can search the RSS feed, cardtalk2018.libsyn.org, for our extended audio versions of our podcast. Or you can find us on Facebook at Card Talk 2018. And if you have any questions for Grant or myself or for both of us, feel free to email us at cardtalk2018 at gmail.com.